Hello, I'm Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about the full moon in Aquarius and how it will affect you. So this full moon will take place on July 24th at 2:39 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. You may want to check your local timings to see exactly when this full moon will occur. And I think a quick Google search will give you that information. July's full moon will happen in Aquarius at 1 degrees 25 minutes. Aquarius at 1 degree is going to express the full range of Aquarius characteristics. Now, Aquarius is a masculine sign, a lot of yang energy, an air sign, actually a dry air sign. It is a fixed sign, and it is ruled by Uranus. All of these things together will be expressed during the full moon. Aquarius moons in general tend to be very detached. It's one of the less emotional places to have the moon. And it's a place where people are surprisingly stubborn and fixed in their opinions, even though they're a very forward-thinking sign. Being ruled by Uranus means that Aquarius is always getting inspiration, getting that little hint from the universe about where things are going next. They also are very forward thinking and are very much focused on the future and where things are going. Now, traditionally, Aquarius was ruled by Saturn. And so most people thought of Aquarians as people who really took care of things for the future, very much like Capricorn does. Now, it is true that Capricorn and Aquarius are a pair of signs that are right next to each other that tend to get along extremely well. And I think if you really did a survey of business partners that were Capricorn Aquarius, you would find a ton of them, because Aquarius is that visionary portion of the partnership, and the Capricorn person is the more conservative, holding back but investing everything back into the business part of the partnership. Very successful. Back to Aquarius moon. The Aquarius moon is all about marching to your own drummer, being a bit of a rebel, thinking for yourself, valuing the individual, tackling even emotional problems in a very intellectual way. So the moon in Aquarius is not going to be your warm and fuzzy moon, although we will still experience people who are a little bit loony because of the full moon. The reason that happens is because the sun is on one side of the sky and the moon is just opposite, in the opposite sign. So you've got your lunar energy pushing out its beams to the solar energy, which is pushing out its beams to the lunar energy, and you see where we go. It's a hall of mirrors. But these energies are very different. The sun is more masculine, it's yang, and the moon is more feminine, it's yin. And this is how we get this push and pull, this tug of war of our psyche during the full moon that makes people feel a little crazy. We're not used to dealing with our emotions in everyday life. When we go to work, very often we are expressing a very yang part of our personality. Everything has to be right. We have to dress the part. We have to be there on time. We have to get there. First of all, we have to, figure out how to feed ourselves and keep ourselves comfortable during those work hours. It's not like when you're at home. When you're at home, you can attend to your emotional needs. You can stop and take a break if you want to. You can sit down in a chair and have a drink and relax if you want to. You can cuddle your cat. You can go curl up in your bed. If it's raining, you can grab a cup of cocoa and watch an old Shirley Temple movie. You can attend to your emotional needs when you're at home. And so that's the yin part of the moon energy, and the moon rules the domestic situation. And then the sun is the solar part of it. And that's usually where we're out in the world. And this is where these energies not clash, but they make us a little crazy. It makes it difficult for us to balance these things, because in our world, they are very often segregated. They are very often separated. The full moon is a really good time to assess what's going on. It is a time that shows you what's going on because it's a culmination, it's a peak of energies, it's the yin and the yang. And with that solar lunar energy dichotomy going on, it's fairly easy for you to see what issues need to be resolved. The light, literally the sunlight, is shining on those issues and showing you what is or isn't working. It can also be a time where you are very much aware, if you're a little bit self-aware, where you're very much aware of negative thoughts, of toxic thoughts, of negative patterns in your life, of relationships that are negative. And this is the universe giving you a tool to let go of those things. Awareness of the problem is the first step to eliminating the problem. Sound familiar? It's good advice because it works. Now, a good friend of mine, really, she's not my friend, I just really love her, Louise Hay, who is passed on to the next realm, said that certain emotions were just wasted energy, and you need to release those emotions. Guilt doesn't do anybody any good. Fear doesn't do you any good. Jealousy doesn't do you any good. And disappointment doesn't do you any good. So when you feel guilt, you're probably feeling guilty about something that you can't change or that you don't have in your own control. When you feel fear, that's giving power over to either the unknown or somebody else's energy. You can't control their energy. You can't control the unknown. And when it comes to jealousy, that's also a set of actions that you cannot control. You can't control what other people do or feel or say. And as far as disappointment goes, that's in your head. If you had expectations of a certain outcome in a situation and they were not met, there's nothing you can do about that except be disappointed. So it's wasted. It's wasted energy. So the full moon is a great time for you to let go of those things. Now, where the new moon is talking about things that are internal, that have to do with the way you feel about things. And we really focused on getting in touch with the body at the new moon. That is absolutely the right thing to do. At the full moon, you have to see that what you've set in motion is manifesting in the outer world. So this is more yang energy, but it's still a good time to analyze what is working for me and what is not. And can I let it go? And so when you're doing full moon work, you want to do more work, not just meditate or pray, but maybe a whole ritual of letting these go, like these wasted emotions. Do a prayer, do therapy, do a good talk with a friend, a good cry with a friend, do a long walk and talk out loud, but do something more active, more yang, to let these things go, because that's what the energy is going to prompt you to do. If you use the energy that the planets are giving you, you can make great progress much faster than if you do everything internally. I should point out that in August, the full moon is also in Aquarius. It's at 29 degrees Aquarius. And this is crazy for all the air signs because you're going to get 2 Aquarius full moons this year. And that's going to be great for you. Also, I think a lot of the fire signs are really going to benefit from these full moons in Aquarius. So on August 22nd, the full moon, which because it's the second time we have a full moon in Aquarius within one season, it's also a seasonal blue moon. A blue moon usually, it's so arbitrary because we're talking about a calendar that is made up. And so the fact that you get 2 full moons within a 30-day or 31-day period is pretty arbitrary, if you ask me. But the seasonal one, I think, makes more sense because that's not made up. It's obvious. You can see what the seasons are. So congratulations, Aquarius. You get 2 full moons this year. Let's look at the other planetary placements for July 24th. As you can see, Venus and Mars are very close together. Now, right after the new moon in July, on July 9th, Venus and Mars began walking very closely in conjunction, within a degree or so, a few degrees of each other, On the 14th of July, they become conjunct. And what Venus and Mars in the same sign mean is a time where we really understand our own soul. It is kind of a come to Jesus moment about who you are and what your life is about. In opposing Jupiter, even though it's in opposition, Venus and Jupiter are both benefics. And even in the opposition position, they are never very bad towards any other planet. So this is basically a self-examination aspect, an aspect where we really look at ourselves and say, how do we want to portray ourselves to the world? And in that respect, it's actually a very positive aspect. Now, also at the time of the full moon, the sun here is in direct opposition to the moon, and the moon is in direct conjunction with Saturn. So that's a difficult placement. Saturn opposite the sun often has us challenging authority or feeling like we're in opposition, literally, to authority. But it brings to light difficulties in our life with authority, with structure, with things that are restricted, or it may indicate delays or disruptions to what we're trying to do. So with the full moon sitting right on top of Saturn, there may be something that we're desiring to have happen that cannot happen on the full moon. We may be working towards a building of something. Saturn is building, Saturn is structure. We may be working towards creating something that is physical that can't come to fruition. In addition, the sun up here is also in opposition to Pluto. Now, Pluto is too far away from Saturn and the moon to be an exact conjunction, but it is within orb of an opposition to the sun. Orb is the word that astrologers use to describe the margin that you can use, the wiggle room that you can use. So if something's at 30 degrees of one sign, but at 28 degrees of the opposite sign, it's only 2 degrees off of that exact opposition. So that wiggle room we call the orb, the amount of degrees that it's not exact. That's what the orb is. So the sun is in opposition to Pluto. Again, the sun is shining a light on the Pluto energy. Now, Pluto energy reveals corruption. It indicates large corporations that are inherently built for criminal purposes. It indicates where things will need to be transformed. And when it comes to the United States, Pluto is plowing up and revealing all of the institutions that are not strong enough or not necessary in order for us to meet the needs of the future. So I think Pluto is helping us build a different and hopefully better United States. In this instance, with the Aquarius full moon, this is an important full moon because of this opposition. It's going to mean important things for us personally and for the United States, because both the planets Saturn and Pluto are involved with this full moon energy. So with Pluto, we will see things that are about to come down, that are going to be literally destroyed. And hopefully, with the hope of this new moon, of this full moon, we'll see the beginnings of how that structure is going to be rebuilt. So it's really important. And don't forget, we have another one in August. It probably won't have the opposition to Pluto because the sun will have moved into Virgo by that time. Mercury, at any rate, will be Cassimi with the sun very quickly. And what does that mean? That means that it will be too close to the sun to stand it. It'll begin to burn up. We will see people who have mental illness issues will kind of frazzle and fry, really, from the heat of the sun. But ideas that are being promoted that are just not sound will probably begin to fizzle as Mercury gets closer to the sun. I think I should also mention that the moon being on top of Saturn also involves Uranus, because all year long, pretty much, Uranus and Saturn are in square position to one another. And this means that This examination of institutions that are not worthy, this examination of our own structures and trying to put things together that may be not ready for the public, are all going to be pressed at the time of the full moon. This opposition energy is going to create situations where things have to be looked at, where things have to be dealt with. That's what a full moon does. And with the square from Uranus, it means that there will be surprising outcomes, really surprising outcomes. Mark my words, there's going to be something significant that happens as a result of this full moon. This full moon, because of the involvement with Pluto and Saturn, will have longer reaching effects than a normal full moon. It's probably going to affect us for the next 6 months, probably until we have the full moon in Leo at the time of Aquarius. So probably in 6 months, we will begin to see the real fallout from this full moon. All right. Now I'm going to go through each of the signs and tell you what I think the impact will be of this full moon on those signs. And we're going to start with the air signs because the full moon is in an air sign. So the first sign up will be Aquarius, which is where the full moon is happening. Aquarians, this is your full moon. Usually you only get one per year. This year you're going to get two, which tells me that there's an important role for you to play in our future. The fact that the universe is emphasizing the sign Aquarius with its full moons is so significant. Remember last December when Jupiter and Saturn were conjunct in Aquarius and it kicked off the 200-year cycle of Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions, squares, and oppositions. This is focusing on Aquarius so much. To use this full moon energy and release those wasted emotions, examine your shadow self, examine what's going on in your life, understand that tug of war within yourself. Not only do you have the moon in your first house, but you also have Saturn there because Saturn and the moon are conjunct at the time of the full moon. And that means that they're also squared to Uranus. And so you've got a T-square, everybody does, but your T-square is going on the first and seventh house axes. The first house is you, it's your brand, it's what you put out to the world. And the seventh house is your partner. So for you, with Saturn sitting on you and your brand may take on a much more serious tone for the next year. Your brand may turn into something that is geared more towards people who are older than your original demographic. Your brand may mean that you mature significantly in this coming year or the coming 6 months. This Saturn conjunction with the moon here in your first house may also mean that you begin to understand what other people are afraid of, Aquarius. Aquarius is such a self-assured sign. Very, very infrequently will they give in to fears or doubt or lack of confidence. It just doesn't happen for too many Aquarians. They may shame themselves. They may feel guilty about things, which are both wasted emotions, but in their presentation of themselves to the world, usually they are visionary and very confident. And I feel with Saturn conjunct the moon here in your first house, this is going to be a turning point for the way you present yourself to the world. And you may see yourself in a different light. You may see yourself as older in some way or more mature in some way. You may see your brand as appealing, like I said, to older people all of a sudden. Or you may find that you want to change the brand to reflect this more mature vision of yourself. And this, I feel, will have a positive impact on your relationships. You could be with somebody who really desires you to be a little more settled and less rebellious in your ways. I don't think you'll stop being rebellious, but I do think that this embracing of a more mature attitude about yourself will be welcomed by your partner. Now let's look at Gemini rising. Gemini is going to experience this full moon on the 3rd and 9th house axes. These are both houses of learning. These are both houses of communication. The 3rd house, where the sun is where you're going to experience a reward or a emphasis or a focus on learning and also on your everyday routines. So you may find that your everyday routines bring you more pleasure. They bring you some sort of recognition in your neighborhood, in your family, in your little world, in your smaller world. In the outer world, you may find that your desires with Saturn and the moon up here in the 9th house, your desires may solidify and become more serious. You may feel that you have to reach out to people in foreign countries or people in the publishing world or people on the internet, and you may find ways of doing that that are a little bit surprising to you. You may desire that you publish a book for the first time, or that you share your learnings, your philosophy, something about religion, or something that you know about foreign countries, or perhaps you yourself are from a foreign country, or perhaps you may decide to move to a foreign country. But something about your world, your everyday world, and your desires to be out more in the world is going to change as a result of this full moon. I think for almost every sign, they're going to experience extreme change, not only because Saturn is there, and Saturn helps us make timely and long-term decisions, but also because of the square from Uranus, that usually brings about actual change and sudden change. For Libra, this full moon is going to focus on the 11th and 5th houses. So let's talk about the 11th house first. This is where you may find that your light is really shining on you. You're feeling a lot of gratitude from people from a group that you're a part of, or you may become a leader of that group. You may be a person that rises to the top and really gets a reward or a boon of some kind, but the energy is an opposition to the moon and of course Saturn in that 5th house. And this is where you may find your desires to have fun have changed, that you're looking at things in a more mature way. It could be that your children are actually older and that changes what you want to do, say for vacation or whatever. Or it could be that you yourself have just moved into a different phase of your life and you want to change things in that way. You could take up different hobbies. You could take up hobbies that are more product oriented, where you build things or make things. And it could seem to other people like these hobbies and things that are so-called fun are actually a lot of work. Or it could be that you decide to make a hobby your work. Maybe you've retired from a regular job and now you're doing work that is, you just want to supplement your income. So you may turn to a hobby in order to do that. It can also mean that you're feeling a little fearful about showing that youthful side of yourself. But I would say fear is a wasted emotion, and the full moon is a good time to lose that. So examine yourself, examine your emotions, and review the first part of this video where I talk about what you can do with this full moon and how you can use these energies to really improve your journey. Now let's look at the water signs. So we're going to look at Cancer first. And remember that I had stated that the water and fire signs are really going to have the toughest time with this full moon. So let's take a look at that. Here is the moon in Aquarius in the 8th house. And don't forget, Saturn's also going to be there. And down here in the 2nd house, we're going to have the sun. So something about your finances is going to be spotlighted. You may be in for a bonus or a raise, or you may just get an extra check. And this extra income is going to be very welcome. However, you're also going to be dealing with an issue having to do with other people's money. And these could be shared resources with your spouse or a business partner or a friend, and that you're having some kind of a restriction or issue with that money. So it could be that the money that is in some sort of like retirement fund or a savings account or payments to a loan or even the mortgage on your house, you could feel that things are too restrictive and that you're locked into some structure that you don't like. So you could decide to start your own fund or buy your own house on your own without this partner, or you could find here with the full moon energy that you're able to work out with your partner how to change that structure so that it isn't quite so restrictive. Something about income, your own income and other people's income is going to be highlighted at this time, and changes will be made. That's something you can take to the bank, literally. That was a great pun. But you definitely are going to experience some changes where it comes to your income, your stream of income, and income, or maybe not income, but just shared resources with other people. Let's look at Scorpio rising. Scorpio, this full moon is going to focus on your 4th and 10th houses. So we have the sun up here in your 10th house, and we have the moon down here in your 4th house. And don't forget that Saturn is also there with the moon. Now, the sun in the 10th house is always a welcome thing. So every year at about this time, Scorpio, you probably feel like you get a boost in your career. Either if you're a business owner, maybe you get a little extra business at this time of year. Maybe it's an award season for your industry and you get some sort of a kudo, saying, you really did a great job, or you're top of the market or top in your field in some way. The moon down here in the 4th house will have more to do with your home. And don't forget, Saturn's going to be here too. Saturn does rule building and construction. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to be making some changes to both your career and your home. And for me, that means probably retirement. So let's say, or maybe you're going to be working from home, so you want to make changes in your home to accommodate being there for work more. And maybe you're building a big suite of rooms for your business at your home, or maybe you're just changing your home office and remodeling it, or something is going to be changing about your career and about your domestic situation with this full moon, because it involves Saturn, but more importantly, it also involves Uranus. And this is in your case, Uranus is in your 7th house. So I'm going to say also that this is going to have a big impact on your partner as well. Okay, this is Pisces rising. Pisces, this full moon is going to be involving your 12th and 6th houses. The moon and Saturn are going to be in your 12th house, and that's not always a very comfortable place to have the moon and Saturn, but the sun is going to be in your 6th house. So the good news is that your health is going to be robust. The bad news is that Saturn and the moon in the 12th house very often means a highlight to mental illness. So if you are prone to mental illness, this would be a time to really take care, practice a lot of self-care, practice a lot of prayer, meditation, healing, doing things, going to therapy, making sure that you are giving yourself the best support system possible for good mental health, because Saturn is going to bring about fears. It's going to bring old fears back to you when the moon and Saturn are in the 12th house. You may be having disturbing dreams, or dreams that you had a long time ago that made you feel afraid. And remember that those emotions are wasted. Feeling afraid is really a wasted emotion. Face your fears. And I know that's easier said than done, but a good therapist can help you with that. And then your health, which your physical health is very, very good. So I don't think you're going to suffer from physical problems, but I do think that the mental health issue is something that you're going to probably have to deal with. And don't forget, Pisces, that we're getting 2 of these Aquarius full moons in a row, one at the end, one in July here, and one at the end of August. So I do want you to be really, really aware that this could be going on. Now let's take a look at the fire signs. Aries is the first sign that we're going to be looking at for the fire signs. Aries, this full moon is going to be focusing on your 11th and 5th houses. So the sun in the 5th house is a very nice placement. This means that you're going to have a nice vacation and you're going to enjoy yourselves and all your kids will be there and you're really going to have a good time. Also, if you're involved in any kind of speculation like the stock market, you're going to do well. I would say if you're not always in the stock market, this is not the full moon to go and do something on the stock market. I'm not saying that at all. And always take financial advice from a financial professional, not from some woman on YouTube. So the moon and Saturn will be in your 11th house. And this means that groups that you are involved with, or just retirement, in other words, is taking a different trend. You're looking at your desires and what you really want to do, and you're feeling restricted either by your own monetary resources or your partner or some other thing is causing you to feel like you cannot explore your plans the way you would like to, or the plans that you had previously have matured and changed and morphed into something a little more real, a little more practical, and something you are actually able to execute. So it could be very good news as far as your future plans go, because you may be really putting the money down to secure that, place on a cruise, or that a year sabbatical to go to Greece before you finish out your career and then retire. I mean, you may be taking very concrete steps to explore what your future will be, and making plans, real plans, to have that come to fruition. So it's a good full moon for you. It's not going to be too crazy. You will have some changes to your monetary situation with Uranus coming from Taurus here in your 2nd house. So I think planning for the future is always good, because right now in the actual full moon period, there will be some surprising changes to your income. Not necessarily for the bad, they might be for the good, but it's just going to be surprising. So that's what I want you to be aware of. All right, let's move on to the next fire sign, Leo. So Leo, this full moon for you is going to fall between your 1st and 7th houses, just as it did for the sign Aquarius. It's just that the sun and the moon are in reverse positions. So if you have Leo rising, sun in the 1st house, you're really going to enjoy having 2 full moons. You're going to be on top of the world. You're going to feel good looking, beautiful, handsome, whatever adjective you like to use for feeling just amazing looking. Your brand is going to be on point. You're going to feel like the world is really seeing you for what they are. But something that you may not have counted on was the way that your partner feels right now. Your partner is represented here as the moon, the other half of the full moon equation here, the moon with Saturn in your 7th house. So it could be that your partner is all of a sudden feeling a little older, or it could be that you actually have an older partner and they are feeling that they are not as thrilled with the way your life is set up as you are. So it is a time to look at your relationships, Leo. It is a time to explore things that have been swept under the rug, things that haven't been spoken about in too long, and get them out in the open. Remember that the full moon is a time where dark things come out of the shadows by the light of the sun. So you want to deal with that stuff. Go back and re-listen to the video where I talk about how you can use this full moon energy. And remember that on the full moon, this moon Saturn will be squaring Uranus up here in Taurus. That may affect your career. It may be a surprising thing. It may be an exciting thing for you, but it's going to be a change. It's going to be a surprise. And that may also have an impact on your partner and maybe why they are feeling the way that they are feeling. So just be aware of that, Leo. You're going to have a second full moon in August. We'll talk about that on another video, but be aware that you are going to sort of have a redo to whatever goes on with this full moon. So open up to your partner, talk things over with your partner, be there for them, be supportive. That's a lot of what I think this full moon emphasis is for you. Now let's go on to Sagittarius. So Sag, you have the full moon between your 3rd and 9th houses. And I think this is a happy full moon for you. This was one of the reasons that a lot of astrologers said, oh yeah, Sag and the other fire signs are going to love this full moon. Well, I don't think that Leo is loving this full moon so much, but Sag, you definitely are going to love the moon. For one thing, the sun is in the 9th house, which is a very happy placement for you because you love foreign countries and foreign things and higher learning and the mysteries of life. And the 9th house also rules the publishing industry and the legal industry. So if you're involved with either of those industries, then you are shining right now and you're really feeling like you're in your prime and things are doing great. You're really enjoying all the experience you have in those areas. However, at the full moon, don't forget the moon is in opposition to the sun. And so in the 3rd house, which is your everyday routine, your brothers and sisters, your neighborhood, the way you go to work, is connected with Saturn. So the moon and Saturn are there, which means that things are going to clamp down a little bit. You're going to feel a little hemmed in by your routine, hemmed in by your neighborhood, hemmed in by the people that live near you. And it may not feel so great. You may feel like, God, I got to move now. Now I got to move to a foreign country. And that kind of decision could very well come out of this full moon. Saturn and the moon are going to be squaring Uranus and Taurus, which is going to be here in your 6th house. And that could very well affect your job and your health. And it could affect it for the better. It doesn't necessarily mean that because it's sudden, it's bad. It could be good. You know, Uranus is also brilliance and inspiration from on high. So like angelic messages could come to you and tell you that this is what you need to do. Just make sure you tell your partner about it first. Now, Saturn in the 3rd house means that you are feeling kind of like a drudge, like you're really just kind of like in this rut and you need to get out. And don't forget though, you've always got the sun up here in Leo in the 9th house, which is really giving a lot of glory to what you are and what you are doing. So good luck with this full moon, Sagittarius. It's a little puzzling how this is actually going to fall out for you, but I think you're actually in the end going to enjoy it. Now let's go on to the earth signs. The first earth sign up is Taurus. I gotta say, I love Taurus. My sister has a Taurus moon and my best friend is a Taurus. And between the two of them, I have such amazing support in my life. They are just so solid and so wonderful. So I just had to say, I just love Taurus. So, I mean, I have something good to say about every sign, but in my life personally, Taurus people have always come through for me, whether it's sun or moon, they always come through for me. All right, let's talk about Taurus and the full moon. So Taurus, this full moon is going to hit your 4th, 10th house axis, just like it does for Scorpio, but the planets are in reversed houses. So the moon is up here in your 10th house with Saturn in Aquarius, and the sun is down here in Leo. Uranus is in Taurus in the 1st house, if you're a Taurus rising. And I want to say that the changes that are going to be coming your way are going to have to do with your actual physical home. However, they could have to do with your career. After all, it is the planet Saturn that has been squaring with Uranus and Taurus all year and will continue to well into 2022. So since Saturn is the sensitive planet that's making that connection there, and for a long time, it probably will have to do with your career as well. So in your career, you may be finding that you need to break out of your rut, that you don't like the sameness of what you're doing and you want to make a change. However, you may feel locked in either by monetary restrictions or contractual restrictions. Something is hemming you in with your career that makes it difficult for you to change, but indeed, change is going to come because Uranus is squaring all of that stuff right now. The sun is also in opposition to the moon. That's the full moon configuration. And there may be changes that are going to happen in your home as well. You could be adding on, you could be making different, you could be rearranging rooms, you could be buying furniture, you could be doing big, heavy landscaping, or you could be changing like installing like an air conditioning unit or something like that. But there's going to be some money spent and there's going to be some big changes both in your career and in your home. So Taurus, get ready for that. I know you don't like change, but Uranus has been in Taurus for, I think, 5 years now at this point. So you should be able to roll with it by now, I hope. I feel sorry for you. Now let's take a look at Virgo. Okay, this full moon is happening between your 12th and 6th houses, which means that, like Pisces, you may be a little uncomfortable with this full moon. Let's talk about the moon first. You've got the moon and Saturn in the 6th house, which makes me feel that you're going to be focusing a lot on your healthcare or your job or the people you work with at your job. You may feel restricted at your job, or you may feel that your body is getting restricted by old age, and you could be a young person, but if you're not using your body properly, if you're not exercising at all, you may feel that the body just kind of like slows down and gets very rigid. That's what happens. If you don't use the body, if you don't use your muscles, they get very rigid. They actually physically shorten up and then you can't use them very well. The moon here tells me that you're yearning to have good relationships with your coworkers, but perhaps they're older than you or you're older than them. There's some sort of discrepancy there, and there's some sort of difficulty in you actually getting to know them and getting to understand them. And that may be frustrating for you because you want to know them and you want to have friends at work. That's kind of a natural thing with Virgos, I find, because their work and service is so important to them. Now, the sun in the 12th house means that you're going to be probably revealing some secrets to yourself. You're probably going to have some dreams that are very prophetic, or maybe you're going to have messages from your guides coming up from the subconscious. But this push me, pull you kind of energy between the sun and the moon here on the 6th to 12th house axis is going to mean that new information is going to come to light for you, and it's going to be a revelation. Now let's couple that with the square from Uranus in the 9th house, the house of higher mysteries. So I definitely feel that, especially if you're watching my channel, that you're a person that's going to be delving into the higher mysteries. And so this revelation, this surprise, this new bit that's happening on the full moon is going to be giving you some information about your soul and your soul's journey. So very interesting for you, Virgo. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting full moon for you to go through. Yeah, so let me know down in the comments how this is really going to hit you. All right, let's go on to Capricorn. Capricorn rising. This full moon for you is going to hit in two of your favorite houses. Here's the 8th house and the 2nd. And these are both money houses, which is why I think that Capricorn really likes these houses. So the sun in the 8th house shows that something is going to come about that allows you to benefit from other people's money. So if you and your partner have a long-term mortgage or a loan or tax things that are owed you or insurance monies that are owed you, this may be a time where those things pay off at the full moon. With the moon and Saturn in your second house, I'm going to say that probably you're dreaming up the ideas of ways to make more money. So thinking about different streams of income, not necessarily thinking of a new job, although you might be thinking of a new job for your partner because the moon is the ruler of your seventh house. So you could be, and Saturn is time, right? So you could be looking at a second career for your partner, maybe yourself, but most likely your partner at this time. Or this could be some stream of income that you dream up that has to do with you and your partner doing it together, and both of you making a commitment, which would be Saturn, to doing it together. Now, Saturn rules things like delays and restriction, but also construction and lasers and crystals and laser focus and things like that. Who knows? Maybe you and your partner are going to start a business where you sell crystals and gemstones to people. That would be a very Saturnine thing to do, actually. And Capricorn, I know you love the Saturn things, so that's why I mention it. Now, let's not forget to mention the Uranus in Taurus down here in your fifth house. So it could be that all of this inspiration comes about while you're on vacation. Who knows? I do know that there will be changes and there will be differences in the way things are dealt with as far as your partner's shared resources and also the stream of income for you. So be ready for that right around the full moon. So that's all the 12 signs. I'd like to ask that the people with Taurus and Scorpio rising leave me a comment down below about your careers and how this full moon affected you. So you may not know right away that that's what's going to happen. You may have to wait and comment after the full moon, but if you have an inkling of things that are going on, please leave me a comment down below. And for the Pisces and Virgo, I'm very, very curious for both of your signs to see how this 12th, 6th house axis plays out with this full moon with the involvement of Uranus and Saturn. I'll know by the comments down below who was really watching. I just want to mention a couple of the videos that are upcoming. I'm still working on the Saturn-Uranus cycle part 2. I will be doing videos for the next new moon and full moon. That'll be for August. I'll be doing videos that cover the astrology in between each of the lunations, as well as I'm going to be doing a tarot card reading, one video for each sign for the month of August. So be sure to watch those. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.